Are Ben Sheppard and Jarace Walker fighting over a rotation spot next season? And if so, what do they need to show down the rest of this season to prove that they deserve the spot? Dustin Dopirak of the Indy Star and I chat about that. Next year's rotation, is Quenton Jackson in the mix, and more on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and Circle City Spin, and today, much to get to as we look ahead again to the final quarter of this Pacers season. Yesterday, Sean Trader and I talked about guys fighting maybe for a spot on the Pacers team at all. Next year, Micah Potter, Kobe Brown, a little Cam Jones. Today, Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star stops by to talk about guys fighting, but perhaps over a rotation spot. Ben Sheppard, Jarace Walker, are they fighting for one spot or two? How does the draft play into all this? Finances, is Johnny Furphy a factor? A long debate about all that and what those two, in particular, Sheppard and Walker, could show down the stretch. And then we talk a little bit, I meant to do this yesterday, but it was a little more fitting today, about Quenton Jackson. Does he fit into this? Could he be in the mix for minutes next season? A lot to get to. Finances, evaluation, injuries, etc. with Dustin. Let's just get right to it. The air quotes fourth quarter of the Pacers season begins tonight in LA. We might touch on that game because it's actually of significant importance to the Pacers, seeing some familiar faces. But today, we focus on something else. The guys who are fighting for real minutes next season: Ben Sheppard, Jarace Walker, maybe some Quenton Jackson is in there. And joining me to do that, someone that I see every day and yet feel like I'm abusing their friendship because our Twitter DMs are me sending him links to do this exact podcast for our last 3 messages. It's Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Dustin, hello.
Hello, Tony. We do talk on text also. It's not like our entire relationship is me coming on your podcast.
Dustin, please do this thing for me. Here's a link.
Yeah. No, you help me probably more than I help you. More than not. Yes. Anyway.
It doesn't need to be an exchange, but yes, it is good to have non-competitor competitors. Okay, so yesterday I spent a lot of time with Sean Trader talking about the guys who are fighting to maybe be on the Pacers at all next season. Kobe Brown, Micah Potter, even maybe Cam Jones, maybe not. Down the stretch of this season. Today, I want to talk about the guys who fit into a much narrower box, yet more obvious of they're fighting for probably minutes next year. Ben Sheppard, Jarace Walker, and maybe Quenton Jackson. We'll get to him at the end because as I see it, and I'd be curious before we actually talk about these individuals, if you see it similarly, starting 5 next year is very obvious. Haliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, and Zubac. Bench, TJ McConnell's probably there. Obi Toppin's probably there. I would assume a backup center is there. I'll pencil in J Huff for now. If those 8 are assumed, that would leave 2 spots for Sheppard, Walker, and draft pick X if they get a pick. So it's possible that Sheppard and Walker are both the answer. But if they draft someone, I think they would like to play that person. And then probably only one of Sheppard and Walker could get that spot. Do you agree with that assessment? Is there somebody I'm missing? Could they move top and up? How do you feel about all that?
Yeah, I mean, and that's certainly my view at this point. I mean, obviously, injuries of minor sorts can make a difference there. Certainly, there's you don't want to rule out the possibility that whoever they do draft, I like right now, I would say they're not beating out Nembhard or Nesmith.
No chance.
But yeah, you think no chance? I mean, I think pretty low chance, especially early.
You say that because most of my basketball life have been like rookies are bad. Like most rookies just stink. And then this year, right now happening is like the most at the same time, legitimately good rookies at the same time in forever, right? So I have to acknowledge that it's possible that any of the top 4 picks would be very good right away. But I mean, I'd find it hard if I'm the Pacers to dislodge a starter from a 6.5 wins in the finals team.
I mean, that's certainly been my thought. I mean, there are definitely people who disagree. Like I say that to leave open the possibility, not because I think it's going to happen, because I think we've got to see these guys up close. And I think when you really watch them day in and day out, like I don't know, that's what you need to really appreciate Nembhard and Nesmith. But I mean, I think it's very important to drive home the fact just how critical they've been for this team becoming what it became through last year. Just the grit, their ability to defend, the importance it is just to have 2 guys that you can trust to take on good perimeter assignments. Their willingness to take on, the kind of dirty work jobs and not have to dominate the ball and everything like that. They fit so well into what they do, in part because they don't have to do too much. they don't need to take 10 shots a game. Or anywhere near close to it to be, sort of satisfied with their offensive role. And then they're going to go out and they're going to really, really guard. And if you take one of them out, you're dramatically taking down your defensive capacity, I think. And especially if you were to force a rookie into that scenario. And any of these four guys, I don't know that any of them is just really established as a great defender at this point. I think DeBonce has got a lot of capacity. I think Boozer is a good positional defender. Wilson has a lot of wingspan, that sort of thing. But no one's going in there and taking on Andrew Nembhard's assignments or Aaron Nesmith's assignments and making you feel comfortable with that. If you still have to play Tyrese Haliburton, then you know that you have to hide him, to a certain extent when it comes to one-on-one matchups. So I would still be surprised if any of those five are any different. But yes, I think to me, there is, I think, one open spot on the second unit, depending on who they take. And that's at the end of the day, I think that's whatever draft pick there is for a second spot. And if they don't have one, then I think you have, I think you have five options in that case. So.
Yeah, I'd agree with all that. I think the thing for Nembhard and Nesmith too is if you had to envision in your head the dreamiest fits between Haliburton and Siakam, there they are. They're right there. Maybe it's Nesmith who's a little taller, right? But it's those two players, the outline of their skills. So is it possible that some of these top four guys could be that? Absolutely. Right. Do we know that, especially right away? No, we don't know, even if they're for sure going to play. So that gets us to Sheppard and Walker, who maybe if they draft a 4, they'd both be playing and Toppin would move up. Maybe if they draft, a smaller guard, they could both somehow be playing. There's a lot of fit considerations in theory, but I think most people have the rough outline of what this looks like. And Sheppard and Walker both started this season just terrible. I mean, they couldn't make anything, and they were playing in bigger roles, and they should have people forget that Ben Sheppard started at point guard multiple times this season, and Walker was playing a bigger role. Yeah. And so they struggled, but even in bigger roles, you'd expect better from them. And then they've both been much better the rest of the way. Yeah. And Walker has ascended the most, but Sheppard had a more proven track record, including in postseason series. So we can split them up. Let's start with Jarace Walker. What have you seen him do much better, even beyond the shooting, from when he stunk to start the season till now? And what do you, if anything, still need to see to be he should for sure, no doubt, get minutes next year instead of Ben Sheppard, for example? Yeah, I mean, I think he's done everything better. And I mean, I think to me, all he has to do is just still be the same guy when he shows up in October. That's sort of it. Is as far as, I mean, he's proven he can do it over time. I think still show up and do it in October and still show up and do it when you're coming off the bench and playing 15 minutes, as opposed to right now when you're allowed to do whatever you want. Jarace Walker has the run of the place at this point. He gets all the minutes, and he's kind of the one guy that he's just allowed to do whatever he wants, and you're not pulling him because he's playing too good. Basically, I think the general view is anything you get out of Jarace Walker is worth getting right now. And he's got to be he's, I think, failed to score in double figures once in the last 13 games, 14, 15, somewhere in that stretch. Yeah. And so, he's been a little less efficient recently, while he's also playing and starting fives with Cam Jones. So, on some level that's to be expected, but I think it's just taking everything that you're seeing right now and translating it to more compact minutes, with the understanding that, okay, you're doing this as the second unit small forward. We trust in you, we believe you've earned this. You're safe. We're going to pay you to some extent. But this is kind of who you are. This is kind of where you fit at this point. But as far as just what he's done on the court, if you could translate that and it's still there in October, I'm set, because he's played with a lot more force. I mean, he's getting downhill to the basket. I think, I asked him what he feels like, where he feels like he's improved, especially mentally. And, he said just the reads of catch and shoot or catch and go. And be able to know that decision when the ball touches your fingers, kind of immediately knowing what direction you want to go, whether you want to pull up because it's a long closeout or, blow past the guy because it's a short one. He's making a lot of those reads. They're very smart. And again, he's playing with a lot of force. There's not the same kind of indecision that I think you used to see from him. Because I think that he's always been kind of blending these mentalities that he was trying to utilize this kind of point guard vision that he has. And it almost kind of slowed him up
and like he kind of thought of himself of like waiting to see things go, and he would just sort of pound dribble and wait for something to happen. It's like with his body and where he is as far as a role is concerned, that's not the best thing to do. So I think he's making smart reads. He's playing with force, and he's playing with force on defense too, and being solid, but and knowing, like fitting the gambling in the right way. I think you're really kind of the defense is starting to show. It's starting to flash why that was the number one reason they wanted to draft him when he did. So basically everything, the passing is also better. Yeah, I think that's one big thing that you used to kill him on. We would be sitting there like, oh my God, Jarace, what are you doing? Because he would just float. He
had one turnover a game that was just like, what was that?
Right.
What are you even trying on that play?
Yeah, it was just, and it was soft passes. Like he'd see stuff, but not get the ball there nearly quick enough to avoid it getting picked off. There was just like kind of an indecision. Like he saw something, and like you'd say, okay, like it's good that you saw that. Like it's good that you have that kind of vision, but like that ball was never getting there. Like putting that ball in the air was a dangerous, bad decision, and it ends up going back for a pick six the other way. So all of those things are better. I mean, he's just playing with so much more confidence. And since he has that confidence, like now you're seeing the value of the body show up. I mean, like the guy's like, big wingspan, tough physical body. And it's just like, okay, like it feel like he didn't really use that to its full, even close, anywhere near its full capacity. And I'm not saying it's there now, but now you're starting to see like, okay, like he's 6'7", 235 pounds and playing like it now.
Everybody, quick break so we can talk about TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is kind of a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot, just like that. Bang, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go on about your day. It's the relief of walking in and getting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Back here on Locked On Pacers. Thanks for making this your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen has to be Locked On Clippers. Pacers Clippers tonight. Ben Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, Kobe Brown, maybe Ivica Zubac. Darian will have more on the Clippers, their recent play, Mathurin, and all that. And check out the Everydayer Club, a new offering here at Locked On. You can get Locked On Pacers and every Locked On show ad-free with the Everydayer Club, plus members-only Discord access. LockedOnPodcast.com/Everydayer Club if that's free. Let's get back to it with Dustin Dopirak. Yeah, I'll never forget Chad Buchanan likening him to a linebacker when they drafted him, because that size was such an alluring part of his game, and it took a while for him to really play like he was that size person. And
it's conditioned too. I mean, that's worth mentioning. He is not, that's not chubby. He is like Jarace.
He's cut.
He's cut up. So it's like, all right, why doesn't he play like that? And he'd start.
The ancient Greeks made statues of people who looked like him. Like
they absolutely did. Yes, they did.
He's that level of jacked. I didn't realize this until you said it. Like I knew he'd been scoring a lot more because I've been to every game for over a month, except for the one in Toronto. But they played 26 games in this calendar year, 2026. He scored in double figures, 21 of those. Right, only 5 out of them. He scored 8 in that game against the Sixers when he also had 10 boards and 6 assists. That's his only game outside double figures since January 19th. Right, so he's certainly on a successful scoring run. When I've talked about his improvement, I keep talking about how in the middle part of this season, like when he started to look better from, I'll make this up, like December 1st through mid-January, it was just like, oh, good, he's finally making threes. Like he couldn't make anything. No. But that was kind of it. Like he was just hitting his triples, and that kept him on the floor. That's still a good thing, to be clear. Now he gets to the basket 4 or 5 times a game and gets more free throws up, and the passing's up. So even though now the threes aren't like falling as much, I bet since the All-Star break, his percentage is pretty bad, actually. Yeah, 34.8%. That's okay. But he's still scoring all this because he could score in more ways and get more rebounds and contribute and do other things. That is super meaningful to me, because if he's going to play next year and be your 8th, 9th, 10th guy, pick your number, whatever, he's going to be doing something different every night. Like what's asked of you if you're that player is different given what the other team is. You might be playing with the starters sometimes. You might be a key ball handler with the bench sometimes. Like it's going to change. If you can only do one thing, it's great you can do that thing. You're going to be put on the floor to do it, but you're not going to play as much, or you're not going to have as much variation. Having that is important. So I would put Jarace ahead of Shep right now for next year for all the reasons you just described, because he's just showing variation in a way that he never did before. And it's not like, oh, he had 6 assists once. Like, he had 6 assists or more 4 games in a row, and he's getting to the cup all the time. And like, guys are praising him for it's finally coming to him. I like Siakam's note we talked about practice today about Walker coming to him in games and asking him for like specific advice, because Pascal doesn't want to be vocal when he's not playing, but that's when he likes to, chat and help. So these are all things from Jarace that weren't happening before. And that's what this is all about. And the last thing I would put in here is, you were there in the year they did not necessarily push for wins before the Mathurin or Jarace drafts. Like, even in those situations, the best players still pop in those games, right? Tyrese Haliburton has 20 points here. Buddy Hield goes off. O'Shea Brissett has a bunch of rebounds, right? Even in those games, the best players still look like good players. And in these games the Pacers have played since the All-Star break, Jarace Walker is pretty much the only guy who and maybe Micah Potter recently, like every game, you're like, yeah, Jarace played pretty well. Like, he did a lot of things. And that matters, that he is rising above the filth of the team's current production. So he's clearly ascending in a way that I would think he'd be in the mix next year, unless they go with the other guy who we'll get to in a second.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it just, at the end of the day, does it show up in October? And does he just ride through this? If he just maintains his momentum, I think he'll be okay. This is like, there is the part where this stretch of games is an outlier, in terms of how this thing is going to go. But he was playing well before that. He was playing well enough when all the guys were out there. Now he's putting up big counting stats, and it's a little less efficient, but it's a little less efficient because, again, like, he's not playing with the guys that he's going to be with. It's choppy. They're turning the ball over a lot. Nothing looks right. The defense isn't good enough to really do anything. They're giving up at least 125 every night. So it makes for a choppy situation. It's just, does it come back, and is he still as precise when he goes back to being in a bench role? And so I think he's in great shape as far as that's concerned.
And yet, the guard from Belmont, who every postseason gets on the floor, scraps with another guard, makes 38% of his threes every season. He does exactly the same things and stars in his role. And Rick Carlisle loves when he trusts his bench guys, and he loves when he trusts that they're going to go out there and do exactly what they do in practice, and they're going to do the same things every game. And Ben Sheppard is an average defender, and this year, after a also atrocious shooting start, has gotten to league average as a shooter, although he's at 3+ months of like, holy cow, this guy can't miss. Yeah. That is also a valuable player, but not as varied and not as high of a ceiling, no doubt. Sure. And history says Carlisle's going to trust that guy more potentially. And he, for all the good stuff I just said, the 3 is going in. He is a more pesky defender. They trust him in certain matchups. His 2-point percentage is a career low, which I think also is reflective of the fact that he played point guard early in the season, and he's trying more ambitious layups and 2-point shots, but he's not making them, and that matters. I think Shep is going to be in the mix, certainly, to play next year. One of these two guys is going to be if one guy gets hurt, you're playing for sure guy. Is there anything Sheppard can do to you to be the guy that they enter camp next year and you're like, yes, he has to be playing. He has to be the 10th guy?
I don't think Sheppard can do anything to jump Walker. I don't think he can. Walker would have to give him the job, I guess is sort of
That's possible.
I just think at the end of the day, like, there's just so much capacity within Walker. Now, like, you could, like, one way of putting it is like Walker's given him the job up until this point. Up until this season, so it's like I'm not
seized it to his credit.
Yes, he has seized it to his credit. Like Ben Sheppard, it's there's some tortoise in the hair stuff to it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, and it's weird to say because like Ben is fast, but like it is like you trust, like, just like Ben is going to constantly do what Ben does, and you can whether the numbers are always going to be the same or not. Like, he is always going to do exactly what he's asked to do. And whether, even if it doesn't look that way in the numbers, like, Rick Carlisle believes that is how Rick Carlisle views Ben Sheppard, is Ben Sheppard does what I tell him to do when I tell him to do it. And I will always be able to know what I'm getting from Ben Sheppard. And that's comforting. And so it's like, okay, like, when you have that, somebody else has to like go above and beyond that and give you something that's too good to leave on the bench when you have someone that you could trust. And so basically what it is like, if Walker is as best as Walker can be, it goes back to like, there's a reason Walker was picked 8th and Sheppard was picked 22nd. 26th. Like if Walker is as good as he can be, of course he's better than Ben Sheppard. But if Walker is not as good as he can be, then Ben Sheppard is something you can trust. If Walker doesn't get to be that trustworthy, then Sheppard will be, and Sheppard will take the job. And now there's also some matchup issues to this as well in terms of like who would be guarding who, that kind of thing. I think there will be games where Sheppard might end up with more minutes to Walker because of the way the lineups look, because, hey, I want Sheppard guarding this guy off the bench or whatever it is. I mean, like Sheppard won't be phased out completely. You will remember that Ben Sheppard is there next year, even if Walker is the 10th is technically the 10th guy. You're going to remember that Ben Sheppard's on the team. He's not going to be utterly forgotten. Like generally the 11th guy, as we've seen in the last couple of years with Rick, gets a real opportunity. He does not get buried, and so I think Ben Sheppard will not get buried. But for Sheppard to play rotation minutes as the 10th guy, Walker would have to take a step back and slow down. And I don't think there's nothing that I just don't think Ben Sheppard's going to do anything that he hasn't done. I think Ben Sheppard should keep doing who he is as long as he's in the NBA. And so it's like, all right, well, what would you want him to do more? Like at the end of the day, it's like, no, man, he's just got to be Ben Sheppard. Either some people are going to pass him or they're not. But, like if you're Rick Carlisle, you're just like, don't try to do too much. Like you're preferably you'll never be asked to play point guard again. You're going to ask to run to the corner, hit threes, and guard, and get in, and be harass people when you're defending. Like once you up at the point of attack and making somebody miserable for 94 feet. And the better you are at that, the more shots you make, the more we trust you. But that's all we want you to do. We don't want you to suddenly become somebody else in year 4.
One more break here, guys. Let's talk about Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moments. Getting tickets, though, that part has not always been so simple. That is why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs. With the fans, you can pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game. You'll have tickets locked in within minutes. You can see the all-in price up front, so there's no surprise fees at checkout. You can see the view from your seat, so there's no surprises when you get to the arena. They have awesome standout zone deals where you just choose the section, and they'll pick the seats to help you save. Last-minute options, and everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So you can take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, that's gametime.co, not .com. So I agree with all that. The thing that maybe this is wrong, but intuitively the difference is we just talked about all these new things Jarace Walker is doing or that he hadn't previously done with any sort of consistency. Mm-hmm. Ben Sheppard doesn't it's not that he won't be able to do that. It's just, it seems like his game is already more in a box. Like this is the things he's good at. It feels less likely that all of a sudden we're going to be like, holy cow, Ben Sheppard's cooking guys off the dribble and getting to the cup. Or like, it's not impossible that happens, but there's a lot less like new stuff he could do that you'd enter next season and go, well, they got to play Ben Sheppard. He's their best ball handler. It's like, of that ilk. I'll say this though, if he keeps shooting how he has and he ends this season with 40% plus from 3 after the start he had, it's going to be so hard to not play someone like that because trustworthy defense really matters. Right. And I still maintain to this point, Walker has a higher defensive ceiling. I don't think that's even kind of debatable. His size alone makes that possible. He defended very well at Houston. Sheppard just has been a better defender in the NBA so far. It's just that's just how it is. And that will be a factor at some point. So if Walker keeps ascending and adding consistency with a variation of skills, I would agree with you that he would enter next season. The job would be his to lose. But if Shep's just like reliable 40% 3-and-D guy for a season, it's going to be also very hard to take that guy out. Like, of course, if they don't get the pick, they could just both play and it's super easy, but it's never that easy. And there's always the rotational surprises. And there's a couple more factors I want to get into in a second, but I agree that it's harder for Shep to, oh my gosh, he added these 7 things. Oh, did he just throw an alley-oop? Like, that just doesn't seem plausible to me.
Right. And there is a big piece. So 2 things to that. Like, I mean, like he's always gonna be able to like be a run the floor slash to the rim kind of guy, like
very important.
Driving straight lines, sort of thing. Like, I mean, he's just not like, you're not putting him in one-on-one scenarios and say, go break your guy down. It's, like he gets his layups in transition, or just when the ball moves and finds him just with a clear lane to the basket. That's going to be his thing. And you're right. If it's also a piece of if you don't have a lot of shooting otherwise. If Sheppard is your best 3-point shooter off the bench, then that leads to increased minutes. And so the other factor is which player do you get, in the draft. And so, I think if you get Darren Peterson, then Ben Sheppard is more in trouble. If you get AJ DeBonsa, Jarace's position is a little bit less tenable. I think they could play DeBonsa and Walker together as 2-3 with Toppin and something like that. Or you might end up just throwing out some kind of death lineup and going McConnell, Sheppard, DeBonsa, Walker, Toppin. And, that's the thing that you could do, for at least some stretches. And that would be some tough stuff to guard, I would think. You've got to be able to get, you're going to have situations where you have to play your backup 5, Potter, Huff, etc. But you could run out a lineup that has, all those guys. And then if you end up with Cameron Boozer, Cameron Boozer might end up your backup center. That might be the best way to get him on the floor. It is a wonky fit if they end up with Boozer, but Boozer is also too good that if he's on the board, you leave him, if you don't get Peterson and DeBonsa and you're third, as much as I like Caleb Wilson, I would have a hard time leaving Cameron Boozer off, on the board, if that's where it ends up.
I agree.
So, that could shift it, and you could end up, in that case, it's like, okay, you could play both guys. In that case, you could play Boozer the 5, and then you could have Sheppard and Walker the 2 and the 3. And Wilson's another one of those. Like, well, you just got to get him on the floor, and I don't know what you had to do it, but you had to find a way to get that guy's too good of an athlete to not play. So is he a 3? Is he a 4? Is he a 5? I don't know. You just got to play him, and that. I don't know what the next order of events is for Sheppard and Walker in that case. But, I do think the, Peterson DeBonsa debate, if you end up with 1 or 2, definitely influences which of those guys, benefit basically.
So you have nailed the challenging part of this. Like the fourth quarter of this season, these two are pushing through what the current reality of the Pacers is, but we don't know who, if they get a pick, they'll actually add to their team. And who the player is and what position they play is a massive factor in who would be playing next year between these two guys. So it's impossible to know that part. That's factor 1. Factor 2 is Johnny Furphy would have been heard from in this discussion had he not tore his ACL. And it's not like he's out for all of next season. I think he'd be behind these guys anyway, but he was playing pretty well. And importantly, playing well with Pascal Siakam. He will probably be heard from at some point next season significantly, above these two, maybe not, but he is good and on a minimum deal, which gets me to my third point of where they pick could matter here too, because if they get a pick in the top 4, they're going over the tax. How much are they willing to go over? If they don't want to go over, I would say their 2 most fungible salaries to get under are Jarace Walker and Ben Sheppard, right? So the answer could just be which one of these two guys is just not on the team to start next season, which is extremely unexciting to say and impossible to predict. So a lot of the answers to this debate could be solved by lottery balls, as much of the Pacers' future will be. And I'd like to add one more factor, Dustin.
Sure.
Quenton Jackson just got a 3-year contract. And I do not presently think that I would have Quenton Jackson above either of these two in the Pacers rotation for next year. However, I am receptive to the idea that without Ben Mathurin and with TJ McConnell, he's still playing well, but not the TJ McConnell that he was 2 or 3 years ago, and will turn 35 next season, that they might need some ball handling and rim pressure with the second unit. And if they get Boozer, or if they get nobody, or if Walker's not ready to provide a ton of that, Q might have a skill they legitimately need as the backup too. So I'm only saying that to say, look, I don't think I would enter next season thinking Quenton Jackson's going to be a rotation player for the Pacers, but I'm putting a percentage on it above 0, which I cannot say for some other guys. And he'll also have a chance to prove that that is valuable for that group down the stretch this season.
Yeah, no, agreed. And obviously, we've been covering this for enough time to know that not everybody's playing 82 anyway. Right. There's going to be opportunities. There'll be weeks, there'll be 2-3 week stretches where someone has to step in and be the guy, every night for that period. You might not hear from them again for a month. But in that case, and to your point, TJ's going to be 34 at the end of this month, I think.
Yep. Yeah, correct.
So I think, like you don't know what could happen there. And I think it's so hard to gauge a lot of things in terms of everybody's health and how they're dealing with age, because they're obviously, I don't like the term babied, but certainly their guys are being allowed to take their time coming back from stuff, and they're being given days off, and having limited minutes in games that, where they contending, they wouldn't be. Basically, you'd see a lot more of TJ McConnell than you have if these games mattered. Like he only played 15 minutes the other night. That doesn't mean he can't play more than 15 minutes. It's just obviously a case of that they don't really need him.
What's the point?
What's the point of this?
Yeah.
So you're not trying to put on you're not trying to put on any tread on his tires that he doesn't need at this point. So, but it's not easy to read. Okay, well, all right. How is the health, and how is age making a difference? And I think one way you could see that age is making a difference is, he's getting to the rim a lot less. Significantly, he's taking a lot more mid-range shots, making them is very much worth noting. I mean, he's been one of the best, shooters from 10 to 15 feet in the league this year. His percentage is fantastic. But like the percentage of field goal attempts that's within 3 feet of the rim is dramatically lower than it's been the last couple seasons. So it's becoming, for one thing, people see him coming now. It seemed like it took a while for them to even figure out how to guard him. And, they're getting to that point. But also there is the age factor of, blowing by people isn't as easy. So you might see a scenario where it's like, okay, we really do need rim pressure. We really need somebody to be able to break this down. And we're willing to live with some turnovers in this case, and so you're willing to do a little bit more risk reward, and put Quenton out there where TJ, he's not turning the ball over a lot. He's making a lot of smart decisions with the basketball. And Quenton is a little bit wilder and obviously has still a lot of athletic juice in him, because he's just, vertical was ridiculous, just, explosive, being able to get to the rim, being able to dunk there. It's chancy. Sorry, Maxine's got some thoughts here.
I was going to say, does Maxine have an opinion on these three?
She might have an opinion, but I think more to the point, she just wants a blanket and to sleep. And so, yeah, I think so. Yes, there will be times, I think, where it makes a difference. There will be defensive matchups that you could say, all right, like I don't love McConnell in that one. Where it might be somebody that might be a little bit bigger or something like that, where, Quenton having a little bit more length, even though he's actually skinnier than TJ, could have an impact there. I think there will be opportunities, and we're imagining a scenario where they got to try to win them all. That they're in a place where they're, gunning for a championship again, and that every game matters. And so, I think, Quenton has this contract because he's shown he can show up in big moments, and that he doesn't have to get an opportunity every game to step up when he gets one. And so, like, that's the value there, is that, when guys are hurt, or, when there's something specific that he needs to go do, and it's just like, you need somebody in that spot just to go all out. He's done it. He's earned that. He's earned the right to do that. Like I said, it's what partially guaranteed. So, it's like you'd lose money if you cut him. So I think they gave him at least some level of sort of faith here, I guess. And, I think he can play both guard positions, and is just such an energy guy that, there's going to be opportunity, and, there's going to be opportunity even if nobody gets hurt. And then if there is, there's going to be a lot of it.
Maxine says we're sleeping on him. There we go.
Yeah.
Micah Potter will try to be heard from for this bench next year. Kobe Brown will do his best to say, hey, I'm on this team too. Maybe some 2A guy pops, but until the draft, these are the big fourth quarter topics as it pertains to next year, every night on the floor. Dustin, thank you very much. I'm glad you and I could finally talk for the first time in about 2 hours. I'm sure people know where to find you, but you'll be covering AJ DeBonsa tonight in person. Where can we find the coverage that you have of the Pacers of that game and the many games we'll be attending together on the road this week? Yeah,
I'll be tweeting about it, probably put some stuff on Blue Sky, and then I'll write about it sometime this week, because I'll have to be on a plane, 4 hours after I get home or something like that. So you will not see a AJ DeBonsa story in the paper in the morning, but it will be, nor will it be on digital yet. I won't have a chance to do that, but it will be out there sometime this week, where you'll also find the rest of the coverage from LA, where both Tony and I will be.
Are you excited to ride on the plane? And by that I mean sleep and not actually ride on the plane.
Oh yeah, I pass out on West Coast trips entirely, so I will be KO'd. I might wake up somewhere over like Denver or something.
I always say it. I'm like, perfect. I'm stuck on the plane. I'm gonna bang out the story up in the sky. Never happens.
Yeah,
it never goes how I want.
No, very, very rarely. It's got to be like a mid to late afternoon flight. If I got the early morning one, no chance.
No chance.
I intend to sleep immediately.
Well, tomorrow on this very podcast, we'll be talking about Pacers Clippers, starring Bennedict, Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, Kobe Brown, and I'll guess right now, I doubt it, but we'll see if it's Zubats. I would say no, he's not going to be playing
probably
in that game. We'll see. And then, of course, Lakers, Portland, and Dustin will be at this one. Pacers Kings, one of the two most important Pacers games the rest of the season.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening today. Back tomorrow talking more Pacers. Till then, everybody, have a wonderful day.